If you're a parent, that scene might look all too familiar. Welcome to Parenting, a community resource. I'm Jo Morrissey, Project Manager for 21 Reasons. This series is for parents of children from infancy to adolescence and the help that's available to parents right here in our own community. There is a website for this series at ctn5.org/parenting with lots of resources for parents. You can also see any previous shows you might have missed. In our first show, we looked at how to establish a relationship with your child. In this second show, we will look at defining that relationship and the role of discipline. And here with me in the studio today to talk about what you just saw is Linda Elias from Child Care Connections and Sarah McLaughlin from Youth Alternatives in Graham. Welcome, and I'm so glad that you're here today. So tell us a bit about what you just saw. How do you feel about what he could have possibly done differently?
It's such a classic scenario. Everyone's child has melted down in the grocery store at least once between the ages of 1 and 4. It just is bound to happen. It's a natural pull to want to reason with the child who's in that situation where they're, have lost all sense. But they really aren't in a position to be able to be reasoned with or to think clearly once they start revving up the whine or when the emotions start to get a little stronger, which you can see are right behind. That's what happens in the next clip as she really blows her stack. Parenting it's so important to have both things. You want to have nurturing and love, and you want to have structure and boundaries. And the mistake I know I've made is when I get to the point where I'm ready to set the boundary, I've kind of become frustrated and angry, and I'm less able to be, warm and, oh, you're really frustrated. It's again with the dispassionate cop I mentioned earlier. We're not going to get that, and you're frustrated. I'm really sorry about that, but we're not going to get it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And
so being able to sort of lay down the law without showing your own frustration.
Yeah, I mean, and to get to a place where I can not be frustrated and I can know that children have strong feelings, and it's perfectly normal for a child to want a treat and not get it and be upset. Mm-hmm. And it's my job to kind of help them through that storm. And I'm better off. I've learned from experience because I have a 2.5-year-old. I'm in the thick of it. I'm better off to move in close and be loving and say, you're really frustrated that you didn't get that. You're mad. You really, really wanted it, which would probably make him cry a little harder. What's tricky about the grocery store is that other people are watching, right? And so it's not just me interacting with my child, but other people have ideas about, children sometimes in grocery stores should still be seen and not heard. Right. Even if our culture doesn't feel that way pervasively, people look and, pay attention to that kind of thing. So the pressure gets on.
So it's also modeling for your child maybe how to react when you're frustrated.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And Linda, what are some things that parents can do to maybe even help avoid the situation from starting?
That's a great possibility of preventing things before they do start, is to really think about when you are going to take your child to the grocery market or grocery store, and know that if they haven't had a nap, or they're not feeling well, or maybe it's not the right time for you to go as well. So to be able to really pick a time that's good for your child as well as good for you. And I know that's really difficult to do, but I think it's really important. Also, the ages and stages of your child really makes a difference as well. So if you're thinking about taking a 4-year-old or a 6-year-old, really understand what a 4-year-old can do, and a 6-year-old. 6-year-old might be able to help take things off a shelf that's a little heavier than a 4-year-old could, but get them involved so that they're not just hanging around and walking behind you, but shopping with you. And then it becomes more of an event than a chore.
So what might you say to your child before you even go to the store? What are some words that you could have with them?
I would let them know that we're going to the store, it's the supermarket. I'd like you to help me pick out some certain things. And when we get to the cereal aisle, if we have a box at the house that you could show, this is the box that we're going to be looking for. So there can be visual things that you can get them active with. And I think the more that they are incorporated in the task, it won't feel so much as a task.
Important words. That's great advice. And then at this stage of development with your child, you're talking about setting up those initial boundaries and then enforcing them. And this is a prime example. And unfortunately for this poor dad, this is an example that in great public, everyone's watching. So you don't want to embarrass yourself. You don't want to feel uncomfortable by doing it. But how important is it that from your child's perspective, who's obviously not embarrassed to throw themselves on the grocery floor, how important is it to weigh out your own rules and expectations versus trying to, keep a low profile in the grocery store?
Well, it's important to, if you are going to set a limit, to follow through on it. I mean, if he, from the get-go, said, sure, you can have that cereal, it would have been a non-issue. Now, if she wanted something else in the next aisle, he would have run right up against the same problem. But once he says no, once you say no, you really, if you go back on it, you're on a slippery slope. As far as keeping a low profile, I've moved to a less obvious part of the grocery store to, to just kind of be with my son and comfort him through his frustration. I think that can help have a little privacy. I've also, heard of people just needing to abandon their grocery store trip if it gets really bad. Like, it's time to go. We'll have to do this another time. With small children, you might want to keep your list short to start with. Don't save it up and do a big weekly shop if you have young children to go with you. If you can go every couple days and have it be quick, that can be helpful.
Excellent advice. Wonderful. So, to recap here, so what you want to do is to make sure that there's some understanding with your child about what to expect and keep them involved with the shopping trip and make them feel important and a part of it. Make sure that they understand that there are rules and expectations even in a public place like that. Talk about or even self-reflect a little bit about if you can in your schedule, sort of see if there's some flexibility in the time that you want to go. Don't take a kid grocery shopping who's tired and hungry.
Make it fun.
And
have a treasure hunt. I mean, you could have a list, and they could and get pictures and have them find the can on the. It can be fun.
Sure.
Wonderful.
It really can be fun.
You're definitely at this stage setting up for your relationship with your child around discipline forever. So let's make it happy.
Yes, exactly.
Exactly. Well, wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us
welcome.
here today.
My pleasure.
So if folks wanted to learn more about Child Care Connections, how would they be able to do that?
You can go on our web, childcareconnections.com on org, and we have a phone number in the telephone book, 396-6573. It'll get you right to us.
Terrific. And Youth Alternatives in Graham?
Well, we have a website, yimaine.org, and we also we do have parenting classes for children for people who have children of younger ages. We have baby and toddler basics, and we also have a class called Strengthening Families for families who have older children.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining us
You're
here
welcome.
today.
Thanks.
Boundaries that you set might not be the same as your children have at school and at other homes. Here's a scenario that might be familiar to those with children who live between two different households.